What is going on, Notre Dame fans and all of college football fans? This is Mike Singer from blueandgold.com. Guest today on this YouTube video is Aamil Wagner, four-star offensive lineman in the class of 2022, Huber Heights, Ohio, Wayne High School. Aamil, really appreciate you joining me. Before we dive into this interview, if you're watching us on YouTube, please hit that thumbs up to help support what we're doing here at blueandgold.com. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more Notre Dame football recruiting coverage. So, Aamil, first question for you. Has there been anything that's really surprised you with this recruiting process? You know, maybe when you started getting recruited, you didn't think that this one certain thing was going to be involved in the recruiting process. Anything like that?
Really, I think what surprised me the most was how fast it kind of took off. Yeah, I remember my sophomore year going in the summer. The only interest I had was really Kentucky, and my brother went there, and it was pretty much on his visit. They said, I have an offer for Kentucky, he'll work hard. And so, really, no other college besides that was talking to me all that well, and just keeping staying in contact that close. And I remember getting a call from Pitt, and then Nebraska, then Kentucky, and then kind of took off from there. And so, just how fast the recruiting process is sped up really was surprising the most.
Yeah, of course, now you're a national recruit, offers from, schools from coast to coast. So in June, you took 5 official visits: Ohio State, Notre Dame, Maryland, Kentucky, Penn State. Are you still recovering from that month? I mean, I'm sure it was fun, but you had to have just been exhausted. Just tell me about June.
I think June was a great month, but like you said, I was really exhausted. It took me like 2 weeks to kind of just fully recover from what was going on. I think I really, especially with COVID, when they give us opportunity in June to kind of get our visits in, I really wanted just to give us a chance to go out there and see every school before something else happens, something shuts down. And so getting a chance to just see Ohio State, see Notre Dame, see Kentucky, see Maryland, the rest of them was great. I think obviously I traveled a little bit because of sports and vacations, but I think at one point I did 10 flights in the span of a week, and that was more than I ever did.
Wow. Yeah, definitely. I think you look pretty good pictured in all these uniforms. We'll continue to pop up on the page here, but let's talk specifically about Notre Dame. Like, what's kind of some of your favorite things about the Fighting Irish and why they're one of your top schools?
I think one thing I liked about Notre Dame a lot was they pushed kind of 3 core values, really. They started off with academics, which is big for my family because my parents always said, academics over football, academics over sports. Actually, growing up, I had a C. I couldn't play sports at all, so academics was a big thing in my household. The next thing they pushed was religion. I grew up in the Central Chapel Aamil Church and practiced religion since I was a little kid, and getting a chance to step on campus, which is a Catholic school, which is a little bit concerned. But the first thing they kind of pointed out was you don't have to be Catholic. You can practice any religion you want, and you can honestly just, there's an Aamil Church not too far away. You can go there. And so getting a chance to kind of be able to have a practice our religion freely was a big thing. And then the last thing they did push was success they have in the football field, especially in the O-line room. There's been so many big names and players, especially a tackle that's come from the program and just going on in the league and do great things. And so that 3 kind of core values they push really kind of hit a core with me.
Let's talk about offensive line coach Jeff Quinn. What kind of relationship do you have with him? I believe Notre Dame offered you last November. So it's been quite a while. Well, what kind of relationship do you have with the Irish offensive line coach?
I think I have a really good relationship with him. He was actually the first coach that actually wanted my family to be around when I had the offer. He called me, or I got in contact with him the day before at a basketball game, or no, a basketball practice. And he said, make sure, I sit down with mom and dad and anybody else in my family. And they wanted to talk face to face first. So that was a big kind of just, he's a family guy. He's really energetic. I think he's a great just coach overall, being around him, having the phone calls, always checking into my life, not just football. And so once I got on the campus and once I got to the visit, he's the same guy he was with the phone. And as I asked questions to the other offensive linemen, like Tosh, who's my host, it's the same kind of story over and over again. He's just a great person overall, really cares about his players, and just really engages with you.
Now, quite a neat connection that you have with that Notre Dame staff is Mike Mickens and Marcus Freeman. They grew up good friends in middle school, went to Wayne High School in Huber Heights. And the assistant coach, or one of the assistant coaches for them at the time when they were teammates, was Roosevelt Mooks, who is, of course, now your head coach. How important is that connection with those guys? Knowing that they went to your high school, they've known your head coach for 20 years, however long it's been. Just how important is that to you?
I think connection is pretty important. I don't have really much family in Indiana like I do other states, but having a kind of support system like Coach Freeman there, who's I've known Coach Freeman for a long time, so as a kid, especially when he was at Cincinnati, he'd have a chance to make a lot of our games, and when he was there, he wasn't there as a recruiter. He was there as kind of just a fan person that really cared about our program. So he's always been around me and just been in my ears about being a good person, being a good athlete, and just being overall well-rounded person. So having them there and someone that could take care of me if I do choose to go to Notre Dame is big. And Coach Mickens, he hasn't been around as much, but obviously we've heard stories. Coach Mickens told the stories. The track coach told the stories about him, and he seems like a great guy. And when I met him, it was instant love when I kind of first met him, shook his hand. And so having them two guys there is football is a very emotional sport and a stressful sport. So having some kind of support system already in place with the two guys that know you is a great opportunity.
So what's kind of your mindset with recruiting? I've heard some people say you're going to take this thing the distance and commit at the All American Bowl. Do you want to do it before the season? Like, where are you kind of at with the recruiting process in terms of decision timeline? What's next for you? Maybe game day visits in the fall. Of course, you've already exhausted all of your officials, so you'd have to take unofficials. So where are you kind of at with all these things, Aamil?
I think right now I'm at the point where right now I'm kind of still breaking down every visit. I talk to my parents consistently, talk to my siblings consistently about how the visits went, what they saw, what they didn't like, what they liked, and I'm just getting a chance to break down every single detail that would go into my decision making. And so I think this decision is really kind of important. A lot of schools push it's not a 4-year decision; it's a 40-year decision. So we're getting a chance to just look at every school thoroughly and just look at how the O-line coaches, how the culture is, how the academics is, everything about around the university is big. Now, as far as the timeline, I think I will be taking some game day visits, hopefully, to every school I'm interested in. And after those visits, have opportunity just to make the best decision I can. I think regardless, more than likely, I will be announcing at the All-American Bowl, but I'll probably commit before then if I think so myself.
So I wanted to talk about your film, pop on your junior tape before we get you out of here. Emil, some really good stuff so far. So, um, like you have on your huddle, 4-star offensive lineman. What was your playing weight? It listed you at 255, but I've been covering recruiting for almost a decade, and typically recruit listings might be a little bit embellished. So, what were you actually playing at last year, and what are you right now? Maybe what do you hope to play at this fall?
I think I actually came into training camps at 255, so it wasn't that far of the truth. But as I kind of lost weight and running and conditioning, I think I went down to about 250, 249 area, and I was able to kind of maintain that weight. So really, it was like around 250 my playing weight, and now I'm actually 268, moving on to 270. I'm looking to as we go into campus again, I'll probably lose around 5 pounds, like normal, and then I'll probably play at 265. So I've added around 10 pounds off season, all muscle. So it's getting a chance to get bigger and stronger.
Sure. So tell me about like your best attributes as an offensive lineman. Maybe when you're talking to some of these colleges, what they tell you that you like about your game or that they like about your game.
I think our best attributes is my athleticism. I played receiver, and I come from a pretty athletic family. Mom ran track, dad played football, and everyone else was pretty much a skill position. And so my athletic ability to move, especially in space, and then my second biggest thing, probably my footwork and my ability to stay in front of people. I think my sophomore year, I survived a lot of times off of just playing basketball for 10 years and be able to move my feet quicker than they have and stay in front of them. So those things really the biggest, my biggest advantages.
So, I mean, if you're talking about your athleticism, typically that would line up with you being a tackle at the next level. Is that pretty consistent? Are all 5 of those schools you took officials talking to you about tackle, or is there anyone saying guard, or I don't know, maybe receiver? And then if it is just tackle, is there a specific talks between left to right tackle? Which do you think you project at?
I think most schools have pretty much just said tackle, and most schools have all said left tackle. I think that in the early recruiting, my football recruiting, some schools are also mentioning some defensive end, but I kind of settled in. I want to play tackle, and that's what I'm doing the next level. And so as I get older, hopefully as I mature and get bigger, I want to have the ability to play inside and outside, not just be one dimensional. And so once I put on weight and have a good stature, hopefully a chance to play all 5 positions of the O line if they need me to.
Sure. Anything that you're really working on improving in your game, some things that are important to you before you get to college. Which, by the way, enrolling early or not enrolling early? Do you have any decisions on that yet?
As of right now, I plan to not enroll early.
Okay,
I think I'm both a sport athlete. I do basketball, track, and I have a really good chance to win state in shot put, and hopefully, I do that in indoor and outdoor. And
sure.
so, as far as rolling early, I think I want to do that. And then, what was the other question?
Yeah, so now you have a ton of time to work on different things on your game before you get to college. So what are some of the things you're really working on right now, Emil?
Something I work on right now is technique. I think a lot of times I overly relied on my athleticism. I can get to certain places, the guys, and so I wouldn't take the right steps initially, or I wouldn't, or my pass sets. I kind of just stand in front of you and turn my shoulder when I didn't need to. So really, right now is just grinding in the technique and making sure I'm fundamentally sound before I go to college. And because the next level guys can be just as athletic as me, and so I got to beat them with technique instead of just raw athleticism.
Absolutely. Well, good stuff. I'm Mike Singer. He's Aamil Wagner. Ohio State, Notre Dame, Kentucky, Penn State, Maryland took those 5 official visits in June. We'll certainly be watching his recruitment down to the wire. Aamil, appreciate you joining me, man.
Thank you for having me.